Howdy y'all, I am Ice Gold, and if you have ever played on a Death Wizard, you would know that drains are pretty integral to the identity of the school. And recently, there has been a little bit of talk about potentially nerfing them. And there's a few different ways that I think drains could be nerfed, and I am honestly going to take the position of drains should be nerfed, because Death is by far the best school because of them, and they're already being treated right by King's Isle. They have for years at this point, and now they are both a damage and resist school. So, PvE speaking, it might be time. You know what I'm saying? So, but as I'm sure you are aware, drains are their value is 1.5 times that of the damage that is shown on the card. So if I were to check out, Scarecrow, for example, the most used drain in the game by Death Wizards, it says it does 590 damage, and then it'll swap half back to health. But in practice, this spell does about 935 value, which is, the same as a PvP reader, so that's kind of crazy. So, just to show just how strong these are in terms of value, I am going to walk directly into a combat to show you guys. So, and I don't even have my 170 setup fully finished, but pretty much, you see these cards. You see that my snack attack does 1010 to 1130 damage, and then my Scarecrow is supposed to do 890 damage. But, of course, what ends up happening is when I use Scarecrow, it will do all of its damage, a little less than a snack attack would, which costs the same amount of pips and a shad. But it will also drain and then give me half of the damage that I do back in the form of health. So I'm going to go ahead and send it. Oh no, a Minotaur. A double buffed Minotaur. I'm going to get so hurt by this. Wow. Ouchies. But you get the picture. Once I use the spell, I mean, you could just watch the damage. I didn't even crit. It did 3,800 and to both of them, and I got 3,800 health back. And that's just the power of an AoE drain. And when you think about it, I got 3,800 to both of them, and then 3,800 health back. So I got like 8,000 in terms of damage, and almost 4,000 in terms of health. That is 12,000 value with one single buffed Scarecrow without a crit. So, yeah, drains are very, very obviously overpowered, and I know that the devs want to look at them. And from a PvPer's perspective, a lot of Death Wizards nowadays have been looking to run, a bunch of Wraith TCs inside, myself included. If I look at my Dream Reaver deck here that I use, and then I go to my side deck, I have a bunch of Wraiths. I usually pack 4, maybe 5. Yeah, I actually pack 5. So 5 Wraiths, because I mean, look at this. It's like 575 drain, and then it heals me for like almost 300 health back, and that's just the base before any multipliers. So after multipliers, this is doing like 2,000 damage on an open unbuffed hit, and then healing me back for 1,000, and that is 3,000 value for 6 pips, no shads at all whatsoever. And on just like a personal note, like the Wraith TCs, they do 20 more damage than max tier Path A Wraith, which is kind of wild, to say the absolute least. So yeah, I mean, Wraith in PvP, it's very, very strong right now, and it always will be as long as drains, exist like they do in their current state. I think that drains do need to come down, but not in the way that I have seen some of the developers talk about. Artie, one of the lead designers for the game, has floated the idea of reducing the accuracy on these spells, and while it would help PvP a little bit, in terms of like dealing with drains and whatnot, it's gonna hurt PvE. And I mean, y'all already, a lot of you will already know, it's like separating PvE and PvP is something that the whole community wants them to do, but they probably won't do it. And honestly, even if this wasn't like a PvP-centric nerf idea, it would still hurt PvE considerably because, you know, it was like I was talking about with Scarecrow. This is Death's first, like, mainline AoE. And can you imagine? It's like, if this were to go from 85% down to, let's say, 70%, it's like, Death would have a tough time running that, especially in the second arc. It's like, before you get to Waterworks, you'll be fizzling more than a Storm, because Storm gets more accuracy from their gear than a Death does. After Waterworks, and I'm honestly not even sure if Death's Waterworks gear gives accuracy or pip chance. I think Death's Waterworks gear gives pip chance. I know it's one or the other, but the fact that most Death Wizards playing casually would have like worse off accuracy than a Storm in the second arc of all arcs. I mean, it's like, I have a hard time finding this kind of nerf good when, you know, a Death Wizard could, you know, be trying their absolute darndest in Azteca against those double bosses, and they just get rolled because it's like they set up their Scarecrow, and then, you know, they're going first, and they try to send the Scarecrow, they fizzle, and then they get like Storm out for 4K, and it just sort of sucks. A change like that would just make the game harder and more annoying for casual players, and I think that's not something that the developers should ever do. But I mean, like, I don't think I'll be able to really stop them if they decide to take that route, but and to be honest, I can make a whole video talking about how PvE and PvP need to be separate. Because before, the idea of WizPeev was kind of like, it would be like fighting a boss, but like with an actual brain. And that was sort of the appeal of PvP back in the day, because, you know, you didn't have all these banned cards, you didn't have these PvP only cards, you didn't have Rat Shambeard, like you wouldn't just get like riding the scales at any point in time. It's like, or if you were to try to shield, you wouldn't get Minotaured back in those days by like a non-myth. So it's certainly become something that it wasn't before, and I think that these recent balancing changes, they need to be PvE and PvE, they just need to be separated, because as of right now, you know, like if drains were to get nerfed, like Artie has been saying they want to, and they should get nerfed in some capacity, it shouldn't affect PvE more if it's a PvP-centric change. And I don't think that's a hot take. I think everybody kind of wishes that. Like, in the climate that we're in with how they design their game, I'm not particularly optimistic that they'll make good on something like that. And that leads me to trying to suggest some other nerfs to drains that the developers could try out. And this type of thing would affect PvP a lot more than PvE, but I'm talking about like nerfing the amount that the drains heal back, because drains, like, if y'all weren't aware, they already lose damage, like base damage, because they're drains. Like Scarecrow doing 590, it's like, it looks good to me at least, because I'm a nice main, but it's like, if you were to compare this to Orthrus, which does 700 for the same pips, it's like, you would think, you know, Orthrus is way better, but Scarecrow, just in its current state, it loses base damage because it's a drain. And I think that's a balanced type of thing. I don't think that I've met anyone who disagrees with something like that happening. But if the devs want to nerf the drain, then they need to do something like they did with Call of Cthulhu. It would, before, of course, it would do its damage, and then it would heal back for 50%. But in a more recent patch, they nerfed it so that it would only heal back 40%. This is something that, it's like, now that I know that they can do it, I don't see why they don't just do it some more, you know, because it's like 50% health back. It's like I was saying earlier, I got like 11 to 12,000 value off of that one singular Scarecrow under a Frenzy without a crit in Lemuria. So if they want to make Scarecrow less broken, make, Drains in general less broken, they just need to replicate what they did with Kurlu. 40% I still think is too high, and I'm sure they do too, so maybe 25%. I think that could be good. It's like, it would still have the drain function, and AoE drains wouldn't really be hurt as much, which is why I'm saying PvE wouldn't change, because, the damage of the spell wouldn't get nerfed, but the health back would, and that's sort of the point here. Drains are just, it's like, I know that there's, honestly, a sizable portion of my audience that is just like, don't nerf anything, buff, but if you ask me, that's not great from a design POV, and it makes the game boring. We're already in this sort of crisis where these latest few worlds, and really especially after they added the Darkmoor decks that gave pips, we're just in this whole buff into AoE. And so, in my honest opinion, the game doesn't need to get easier. It's like we're level 170 now. Is it really too much to ask for people like casual players and all that to maybe put a little more thought into how the game would be? It would still be buff into AoE because the damage isn't getting nerfed, but at the very least, a 25% heal back from a drain would make the game, I guess, a little less brainless. You would have to put some more thought into how you go about like doing bosses as a Death Wizard, like the Wallaroo bosses that are a little harder, the solo arcs, those two. It's like you can stay afloat, you can play bad and still win easily as long as you just drain so that you don't die. I don't know. I feel like it's like no other school has that kind of crutch, so it's like, I guess, and it's like if you do enough damage, you would still get plenty of health back anyway, so that's just my take on things. I guess the next little bit is sort of about how nerfing the accuracy on the drain spells like Artie wants to do in that screenshot that I put earlier. It's just not the wave, because like nerfing the accuracy on a drain, it wouldn't really hurt deaths in PvE late game anyway. Pre-Wallaroo of Thames would allow death to have, it's like if I had an Athame, it's like you can get 16% accuracy triangle slots, and if you were to use one here and one on the deck, like I do here, it's a 12, not a 16, but same div, you would be able to get up to 32% accuracy just from the jewels on the pre-Wallaroo template. And, that's not even taking into account any gear. So, even the new Athames would still be fine, because 116 on the amulet plus the accuracy you get from gear would be plenty to make it up to 100%. Like I have the Eon Helm, so that plus a 16, that's 21. Null Robe, 30%. You're already there. And then 33% with the Eon Boots. So, it's like if they did nerf it to 70%, it wouldn't make a difference for late game. It's like Nightmare Robe would be able to get away with it too if you didn't have Null, and then Eon obviously would as well. So, and a nerf like that would really only hurt lower level players. Like think like pre-Darkmoor, it's like, and that's not what you want to do, because the casual players, you kind of do need to cater to them. It's like, I know that Arc 2 can kind of be a Stonewall type thing with Azteca and Chrysalis being so long, and honestly a lot harder because like Waterworks stops being good. Like it stops making you feel strong in Azteca because of the health of the bosses. But I think the bottom line here is that I just want to improve the casual player's experience while also trying to make it less brainless. It's like Wiz is meant to be a more casual game, but it shouldn't be casual to the point where Ferric, he was able to solo Hall of Heroes here in Lemuria pre-nerf because he was a Death Wizard, and he just drained a lot, he AoE drained a lot, and he was able to stay in because of that. And I think that, and it's like he really did have to think for that, which I think was great, but it's like this is a massive multiplayer online, an MMO, so it's like it kind of defeats the purpose of team play if your school is genuinely just better suited to soloing than it is with a team. And Death already is super suitable for a team. I mean, look at this. V-Plague, Juju, where the hell is my Dark Pact? Yeah, like here. And things like Feint, they get by default. It's like Death is already really, really great in teams. So it's like, we should encourage more Death Wizards to play with a team, as opposed to having it just be the decisively best school. It's like on the subreddit, you'll see posts about, you know, like, what school should I pick, and, you know, there's 6 options like usual, and then every single time without fail, Death has more votes than all of the other schools combined. So, and why not, you know? Like, Death already has pretty much everything in the game. It's like AoE drains just make it so much easier. And yeah, like, I guess I just want more people to play with their brains on, which I hope isn't too much to ask. And hopefully the devs go about nerfing drains in a little bit of a better way than they've gone about nerfing some other things. What the hell happened here? Because obviously, you know, you don't want them to get over nerfed, you don't want them to get nerfed wrong and have, like, people in R2 just start, like, fizzling their scarecrows and whatnot. So I guess we'll just see. We'll see if they do that in maybe the spring update or the summer update or something like that. Maybe there's another spell audit on the horizon, who knows? But yeah, I guess we'll just have to find out, won't we, team? But yeah, that is going to wrap up. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. I sort of just threw this video together on New Year's Eve. I'm still stuck in the past as I'm recording this, but hey, first new video 2024. Hope y'all enjoyed. So yeah, I've been Ice Cold. Be sure to like, subscribe, and leave like 50 comments for the algorithm and for that badass looking old one in the background. And I will see y'all later.